There's a dark forest deep in the heart of the Rockies, surrounded on all sides by mountains. In the center of the forest is a lake on the shores of which you will find a large black stone. If you swim out into the center of the lake, the stone will drag you down into the darkness. You will emerge from shadows in the alley of a frightening dark city of heavily arched roofs and buildings built on stilts. You must not talk to a single citizen of this city, or you shall be trapped there forever. The citizenry is horrid and mutated, and they will leer and curse at you, and their hideous and deformed women shall offer you unknown and horrible lewdnesses. At the edge of this city is a highway. Walk down the left side of the road, yes, against traffic, with your thumb out, and a man in a dark truck shall pick you up and drive you back the way you came. The city will be gone, and he will take you to any place on earth as long as you can name it, and there's a road there. In a private terminal at the port of Boston, there is a houseboat. This houseboat has been anchored there, permanently, for at least 50 years. The eccentric owner has maintained all fees and taxes and is in good standing with the port authority. Still, even if the owner wasn't financially responsible, no one would ask them to depart. Despite the owner's friendly, hospitable, if odd nature, there is a persistent air of unease around the boat and the area of the port surrounding. Very few people have taken the owner up on offers of hospitality, but those who do recount a wholly unbelievable tale. When you step into the houseboat, it's as if you're sent backward 50 years in time. Looking out windows depicts a cityscape of antiquity, and the television receives live broadcasts of programs of the era, including news programs. If you look out the open door, you see the city as it stands today. When the door closes, you can see the 50-year-old skyline through the port opening. Some visitors who spend time with the owner notice something particularly disturbing, an almost uncanny resemblance to their host, despite obvious age differences. Though this is odd, the owner is friendly and trustworthy, ignoring the air of unease most feel, so it isn't surprising if casual friendships build between a guest and the proprietor. All this would, of course, be very strange and worthy of note, but dismissed as some form of elaborate hoax or illusion, if it weren't for one additional detail. Whenever someone elects to spend the night in this houseboat after an evening of conversation and a few drinks, they are never heard from again. When the guest awakens in the morning, the owner is nowhere to be found, and suddenly, the city skyline never changes back to its contemporary appearance when exiting the boat. Under the bed there is a briefcase full of $100 bills with a letter stapled to a list. The letter simply reads, "You have 50 years to follow these instructions if you wish to free yourself from this hell. The clock is ticking. Get to work." Somewhere in the middle of the desert in Nevada, there's a place where, if you look to the west at sunset, you'll be able to make out a tiny, house-shaped structure in the far distance. Wait for the sun to set completely, and then you must walk straight towards that structure without deviating. As the night wears on, you will hear groans and cries of pain in the distance. Ignore them. You must continue to move towards where you saw the building. The night will seem much longer than any normal night, but if you continue walking until the sun comes up again behind you, you'll find yourself suddenly in front of a battered, dusty shack. Inside, you will find no windows or doors, including the one you just came though, and in the center of the room will be a body. Reports of the decay vary from recently dead to a skeleton with clothes. You might recognize the clothes or possibly the face. This body is yours. You can inspect it for as long as you dare. Check it for wounds or clues to your death. Check its pockets for clues about your future if you wish. But you must figure out how to leave the room and do it before your corpse awakens. If you make it out of the room, you'll find yourself back at the edge of the desert where you started. But if your corpse stirs before you can find the way out, you'll be trapped in that room for eternity while your corpse is allowed to roam free. What does a corpse do with a second chance at life, you ask? Well, remember those groans and cries you heard crossing the desert? A reanimated corpse has to eat, too. There was this woman whose husband was acting very strange one day, very paranoid. She asked him why, and this is what he told her. 12 years ago to this day, a whole bunch of my friends and I went to an old haunted house downtown to stay the night because we thought it would be fun. We were all settled on the bottom floor of the house and we were fine for the first few hours. We began to hear things that sounded like footsteps pacing on the floor above and scratching on the walls. We sent Jimmy, who was the oldest of us, up to have a look, so he grabbed his flashlight and we watched him head up the steps. His footsteps seemed to stop towards the last few steps where he was no longer visible to us, and slowly his light faded from view. We called after him, but there was no reply. Afterwards we sent Matt, the second oldest, up to find him. He walked up the steps and the same thing happened. At this point we thought they were joking, and our third eldest, Jason, went up to look, shouting that he knew it was a trick and to give it up. At the last few steps where the other guys had vanished, his shouting voice became distant before vanishing completely. The rest of us got scared and went home to call the police, who checked it out the next morning and found blood smeared up the sides of the stairwell. They searched the entire house and never found a soul. The house was eventually knocked down and not one body was found. Every year on this day, one of us remaining from the house has disappeared, going from oldest to youngest. Her husband was not seen again after that day. Police held a brief investigation, but nothing came of it. During the summer of 1983, in a quiet town near Minneapolis, Minnesota, the charred body of a woman was found inside the kitchen stove of a small farmhouse. A video camera was also found in the kitchen, standing on a tripod and pointing at the oven. No tape was found inside the camera at the time. Although the scene was originally labeled as a homicide by police, an unmarked VHS tape was later discovered at the bottom of the farm's well, which had apparently dried up earlier that year. Despite its worn condition, and the fact that it contained no audio, police were still able to view the contents of the tape. It depicted a woman recording herself in front of a video camera, seemingly using the same camera the police found in the kitchen. After positioning the camera to include both her and her kitchen stove in the image, the tape then showed her turning on the oven, opening the door, crawling inside, and then closing the door behind her. 8 minutes into the video, the oven could be seen shaking violently, after which point thick black smoke could be seen emanating from it. The camera then continued to stationary point at the oven for another 45 minutes until the batteries apparently died. To avoid disturbing the local community, police never released any information about the tape, or even the fact that it was found. Police were also not able to determine who put the tape in the well, or why the physical stature of the woman on the tape did not in any way resemble the stature of the woman found in the oven. You might be getting yourself ready for bed, hopping out of the shower at night, or running to grab something before a date when you inadvertently find yourself descending a flight of darkened stairs. About halfway down said flight, the urge to go that much faster jolts into your mind and you immediately obey. What are we running from that dwells in the darkness up the stairs? Is it simply the thought of darkness that causes us to want to leave the situation as soon as possible? Or is there something else? A darker, more sinister force awaiting us to take our time going down the stairs to nab us and take us with them to their hellhole? Or perhaps is it a force of good, attempting to protect us from the things in the darkness? Could it be that every time we feel that urge to move faster, the very hands of an evil force are grabbing our back, and because of our sudden speed we slip out of its grasp? Who knows? Just remember, next time that you're going down that flight of stairs, don't look back and skip some stairs if necessary.